The Bible has been manipulated. That is what we are going to discuss here today. Can American Christians rely on the English Bible? We last left off me diving back into my own identity, my own roots, and diving deep within the faith, not just letting it be handed to me. And like I mentioned, I was talking to Hebrew Israelites, Mormons, Catholics, everybody. I was talking to everybody, and I didn't understand the differences. But this is one of the major objections that I heard time and time again that I truly didn't have an answer for. So we are going to share with you what I found. So it's been manipulated, is what we hear. The current canon of the Bible is 66 books. We have 39 in the Old Testament, 27 in the New. The 39 in the Old Testament is majority Hebrew. There's a couple books written in Arabic. And all of the New Testament is written in Greek. So with us having that knowledge, there are actually free resources available. Bible Hub is a great resource where you can go to the verse in English and you can ask what type of language that you want it in. And when you go back to the original language, it has over 99% accuracy. So no, it's not 100%, but this isn't even close. This is unheard of. This is unmatched. So this is very, very accurate. So, the Bible's been manipulated. It doesn't seem that much of a hiccup. 99%, because of that 1%, we're not going to read it at all. And when I started looking at it like this, my view of the Bible itself started changing. Because I always looked at the Bible as a book, but it's not a book. It's a library. It's a collection of books. Like we just mentioned, 66 books. It's written over a span of 1,600 years. 40 different authors, over 3 continents, different parts of the world, 3 languages, all telling one story, one God, and never contradicts. So it began shifting my mind. I thought this was very, very insightful. So after I realized, okay, the Bible really hasn't been manipulated that much, the next thing that we always hear is, well, humans wrote the Bible. Why would you follow anything humans wrote? And for all the Christians out there, I don't want you to run away from this question. If anything, we should lean into it because, yes, humans did write the Bible. This is true. It was written about 60 to 120 years of Jesus Christ's death and resurrection. So it was written by first or second-hand accounts. So mind you, first-hand account is somebody who was there, who witnessed the event, whatever it was. Second-hand account is I have my boy, he went out to the party, he came back from the party and told me the events of the party. I can now write that down because I have a reliable source. So, think about it. Matthew, from the Gospels, was the tax collector or was a tax collector that Jesus actually walked with. Now, if you never read the Bible, I haven't read it all the way through in its entirety, but you can see that Jesus didn't have a lot of time to write the Bible. He was too busy teaching it, fulfilling it, correcting systems and leadership and people's hearts. So, no, he didn't have time to write the book. But my question is, so what humans wrote it? Why is that controversial? This is literally how we still record everything to this day. Think about it. When we get something on the news or we see something that scrolls up on our feed, it has to come from an original source. Where did this information come from? So the issue isn't the information. We need to test the sources. Are the sources reliable? Okay? I want to give an example of Abraham Lincoln. He was born much more recently than Jesus. None of us have seen, have touched, have witnessed Abraham Lincoln. But we all believe him to be true. Why is that? Because newspapers, writings, speeches, clips, if they had some, I don't know, but there's documented evidence from a source that we collectively deem as reliable, that we will now establish this as truth. And what I think is interesting, when you actually start digging in, you'll begin to see that no one matches the sheer volume of writings as either the Bible or Jesus. So this really got me thinking, could we imagine if we were to use that same standard today, especially in the era of fake news? I thought that would be very interesting. But there's one more thing that I wanted to discuss in this video today. Okay. So as I was mentioning, no one in ancient history, not Lincoln, not Caesar, not Muhammad, has as many surviving manuscripts, fulfilled prophecies as Jesus Christ. And this is not my opinion, this is facts. You guys can go ahead and double check it. And I'm sure you will. So please let me know what you guys find in the comments. But this is something that I seem to be the only one who cares about. And I hope that other people care about this as well, because I want to start a discussion about this. So, as I mentioned before, I grew up in the church. I never really followed Jesus completely. I always believed in him, but I never followed his path or trusted him or knew him, and he didn't know me, or I didn't allow him to know me. I think that's a more appropriate way to say it. But I felt like I had everything figured out. I've seen things. I know people who have like real testimony, and you know, when I went out to school was the first time I realized other people didn't believe the same thing that I believed. And, you know, I didn't think I was holier than thou or anything. I just thought that I had it figured out from context clues. Okay, so this is the big thing that has been bothering me since I realized it. I don't even know when it's changed. So when I grew up, again, I'm a millennial. 1994 is when I was born. I grew up under a completely different timeline. That blows my mind to think about. But we had a different timeline as millennials. We had a timeline that had BC, which stood for before Christ, and AD, which surprisingly does not mean after death. That's exactly what I thought it meant. But its actual definition is much more profound. AD stands for Anno Domini. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. But I believe this is Latin for in the year of our Lord. So as I'm seeing this, you know, I'm starting to realize, wow, there was at least 2,000 years where time itself decided to bow to this man who claimed to be God. So I found that to be very interesting because I didn't even realize it shifted. I don't know when it shifted, but I know it's not what is in place today. Today we have this new system called CE, which is Common Era, and BCE, before Common Era. Now, we haven't really established enough to see if this is true or not. But my issue is, if it is true, you know, I was lucky. I grew up in the church a lot, 5 times a week, and I still walked away. Thank God that I came back. There's a verse saying that if you raise your children in the way that they should go, they'll never depart, right? But imagine those who weren't blessed enough to grow up in that family or that community, having exposure to the goodness of God. And they never even have at least the context clues of the timeline itself. Because when I saw it, I said, hey, man, there has to be something about this Jesus guy. You know, time itself, if everybody collectively, not just America, collectively, we all use the time system that honored and recognized at the very least this man who claimed to be God. I think that's important. I think it's such a subtle shift that can create such a huge distortion between truth and falsehood. But again, we're going to continue diving down. Let me know if you've enjoyed this so far, what questions you may have. If you guys have any gripes about what we actually said, let me know what you think. But we're going to continue this path. You guys have been killing it with the likes, comments, and shares, so thank you for that. Keep that going. That way we can go ahead and continue giving out this information. But until next time, peace.
We don't do a lot of bragging, only boast stand alone.